So Elon Musk has bought Twitter. What does that mean for Twitter as a brand and the services that they provide? Let's dive into it. So unless you're living under a rock, you would have seen that on the 5th of April, Elon Musk purchased roughly 9.1% of all Twitter shares. That sparked something sensational. Shortly afterwards, on the 14th of April, Elon Musk decided, hey, 9.1% is just not good enough. I want the whole thing. And he put in a bid for the entire Twitter. On the 25th of April, the Twitter board agreed to sell the entire Twitter company to Elon Musk. And that sparked huge debate from all political sides and the whole spectrum of the business world. I don't want to get too caught up in what it means from a political perspective. Today we're going to focus on what does Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter mean for the Twitter brand and the products and services that they provide. Let's get into it. There are so many things we can say about Elon Musk, and this video is not going to do justice to him. But one thing is for sure, wherever Elon Musk goes, success sure does follow. If you didn't already know, Musk was a born and bred South African who moved many different countries with his family and landed up in America, the home of opportunity. He quickly became extremely successful as a brilliant mind and a brilliant way about his business acumen. He was integral in PayPal's success. He sold the company to eBay after a very long battle between will eBay buy them, will they not buy them, for $1.5 billion. I mean, that is a huge number. And he cashed out around 70% of all shares. He got a very big whack of that $1.5 billion. And if you didn't know, he does run a few side businesses. He owns Tesla, SpaceX, the Boring Company, you know, the one with the massive flamethrower. That one, among so many other things, including trying to get us all to Mars for some reason. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Mars? So he's a very, very successful man and an entrepreneur like no other. Some have likened him to Tony Stark. Others have just said, hey, he's been a successful guy, he's good at business. But whatever you like and think about him, he surely is a guy who knows what he's doing and knows how to make a business successful. So if nothing else, Twitter can look to all his success and go, you know what, I might not agree with everything he does or everything he says, but at the end of the day, if I look at his track record, he's a very, very successful man. But as we alluded to, there is another side of Elon Musk. If you haven't already, followed him on Twitter and have seen what he said in the press lately, he can be quite divisive. Whether you agree with his political aspersions or not, he definitely is a guy who is not afraid to stand up for what he believes in. Sometimes that may rub you up the wrong way. Other times you may think he's a guy I want to be friends with. But he is a divisive person. So as a brand, usually companies like to steer clear of being very one-sided in either direction. They like to sort of be centrist in a way, but Elon is not that man. He'll stand up for what he believes is correct, whether you agree with him or not. And so there are these two sides of Elon Musk, this successful man and the man who stands up for what he believes in, irrespective of what everyone else thinks or what the going political thought is at the time. But either way, as we've said, wherever Elon goes, success sure does follow. So has any of this success followed Musk and Twitter to date? Bet you it has. Let's take a look at the following timeline. On the Friday before Musk purchased his initial 9.1% of Twitter stocks, the share price was roughly around $39. By the Monday, when it became known that he is already purchasing 9.1%, it hit that $49 mark. And on the day that he actually put in the bid for the full Twitter, it went to over $50. And by the time that the board accepted it, it was already over $51. That is a massive increase from just a couple of weeks before. In fact, it's almost 27%. What's happening today? Great question. It's hovering around that $46 mark. Still a massive percentage jump per share from all the way back on the 31st of March. And what we're seeing is that him as a brand is bringing success to Twitter already. Granted, he's already put in a bid and it will be accepted for $54 a share, and the shareholders are pretty happy with that. But nevertheless, we've definitely seen that fluctuation in a upwards trajectory for Twitter overall as a brand. So now that we can clearly see that Elon Musk is bringing some form of success, and we can only certainly see that continuing, what does it mean for Twitter? Where does it leave them? And for me, there really are only two options. Twitter can continue to operate as it does today, where it introduces some products and features as it goes, relatively quietly without any big formalities, and things just happen in the background. And then when they do happen, you suddenly see a little thing in the bottom of your Twitter feed that says, oh, Spaces is available, or Community is available. And that's how they run today. Very quiet, and if you're thinking this, not very Musk-esque, if I can use that term. The other option, lean into Elon Musk as a brand. He is unequivocally a very awkward, but a very, very big, charismatic figure. And if Twitter can lean on that, they can introduce things like live streaming some new features. Imagine Musk coming on stage and introducing that edit button, just like he does when he introduced the new Tesla Model Y or the new Roadster or any of his other car models. The fanfare that he can create is enormous. So as a brand, from a Twitter perspective, you're kind of thinking, I could lean in, I could not lean in. Both have pros and cons. What do I do? In reality, there's really only one option. If the board keeps its place, or even if Elon Musk appoints a CEO to run the company, which I would imagine he would, you've got to think that they'll lean into Musk as a brand. They'll do things like cross-pollination, whether that's getting Musk to get on stage, as I said, and introduce a new feature, or providing new features as a first instance to all Tesla model owners. Anything like that where there's cross-pollination between the brands is a win for both companies. I mean, if you think that Twitter's going to get away without having that Musk flair and fanfare about it, I think you're in the wrong business. But really, what does this all mean for us as customers? If you take Musk's word as canon, which historically he's done his best to keep, yes, there's always Tesla model dates which have been pushed out for many, many years. Yes, the Roadster is one of the main culprits. Even though that is true, Musk still tries to be as close to his word as possible. He has come out and said publicly that he wants to make sure that this Twitter can be used as a space for open debate. There is no one who's going to be considered out of bounds to have a public name and a public forum to speak what they believe is true. Obviously, within the means of the law, there's no such thing as making sure people have a platform for hate speech, for racism, for other types of prejudice. And unfortunately, Twitter has to date not done such a great job. I can link some things in the show notes below to show you what I mean by that. I mean, there are some regimes who are still on Twitter who stout the destruction of many, many, many Western countries versus some other people who have been taken out of Twitter for their political views. Whether you agree with that or not, there is certainly some sort of misrepresentation there. So Musk's first aim is to make sure that there is a public debate available for everyone. He wants to make sure it's inclusive, and he wants to make sure that people can use Twitter for both their personal and commercial means. We've already seen him hint to that edit button, and Twitter themselves have come out and said they want that edit button. I mean, it's one of those features where we can all think to ourselves, man, there was an autocorrect. I wish I could just take away an S, or I can change an S to a question mark. All those things is what Musk wants to deliver. There are obviously hindrances to that. You can't just have an edit button, people retweeting things about what you've said previously or commented on something and then you go back and edit it. Doesn't always work. MKBHD on the Waveform podcast, which I'll link in the show notes below, did a really, really good assessment on this. It's not very simple, but it can be done, and I think that's one of those features which everyone is wanting. And there are a whole heap of other features which they could introduce. Things like verifying customers to make sure that they are who they say they are, or introducing other ways to automate means for people to do their task, whether that's third-party apps, which used to have a lot of capability in their backend APIs to introduce things that Twitter were introducing, and they're taking that away. So potentially Musk is reintroducing those things. Think Tweetbot on steroids. Alternatively, you can go down a very, very different path and use Twitter as a platform for authentication. So think about securely logging in to certain applications, websites with your Twitter profile. Musk is notorious for taking a platform and just scaling it to the nth degree. So as a customer of Twitter, there certainly is scope to do some cool things. All that being said, it's still very early days. And as both from a brand perspective and a customer perspective, we really don't know what's going to happen. All we can do is say historically, Musk has come into companies and driven growth and driven success. So we know that that's very, very capable of happening. The second point is Musk loves innovating. So if you're a fan of innovation, whether it sometimes works or doesn't work, you'll know that Twitter will be one of those apps that will be innovated. And so it's exciting. Don't know what it will mean, but it's certainly exciting. As always, if you like this content, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to see you here again. And be sure you do a little extra good deed to bring a little light in the world. Until next time.